Hi, I'm Chris Mushler, Principal Enterprise Architect from virtualelephant.com. And in this video, I'm going to share with you my 6-step process for helping clients and customers along their digital and cloud transformation journeys. Let's get started. Oftentimes, when I get engaged with a client, I find that they're struggling with the blank page problem. They're not quite sure how to get started with their digital or cloud transformation initiatives, and they need help being able to formalize a process that they can follow that will enable them to be successful long-term. Now, I've shared some other tips around how I approach enterprise architecture and running workshops and building a design. And this process was really born out of my experience as an enterprise architect. Now, over time, this process, these steps that I am going to talk about today in the video, have changed and morphed based off of things that I've learned as I've worked with many different customers of various shapes, sizes, as well as different sectors, financial services, energy, logistics, and so forth. But I've found that these 6 steps really kind of help us lay out a path as we start any sort of large project around digital or cloud transformation. The 6 steps that I've developed as part of this process include discovery, assessment, strategic development, implementation or execution, enablement, followed by a review and optimization phase. And similar to what I've talked about when we think about the TOGAF Enterprise Architecture ADM cycle, this is a similar cycle that you're going to want to take part of and implement and make it a standard practice within your organizations for any digital or cloud transformation initiative or strategy you're executing against. And certainly this is not a one-and-done thing. Oftentimes we talk about this in these videos. The process that I'm giving you is supposed to be a framework and one that you're going to incorporate within your organizations and your teams to be able to allow you to have that long-term success. And so this should become something that you're doing regularly, whether it's annually as part of an annual planning session, or whether it's quarterly as you're tracking progress along the way and completing different phases of this process. The first 2 steps of this process, discovery and assessment, are really going to be intermingled with one another and find that they have a lot of overlap. Now, as we talk about discovery and assessment, what we're really trying to get to is to understand what are your business goals, what are the business strategies that you're trying to execute against, as well as understanding where you are today. So in the discovery phase, one of the things that I help customers do is to understand what the breadth of their environment looks like. What are all of the different development toolkits that you have? What are all of the different operational tools? What are the different processes that you've put in place? How are you supporting your end users or your engineering teams and your infrastructure teams to understand holistically what the environment looks like? And then once we have a solid understanding through this discovery phase of what things look like, we're going to immediately move into the assessment phase. And I have a video coming out next week specifically around assessing your cloud maturity and understanding why it is crucial. So I encourage you to come back next week and make sure that you're subscribed to the channel so that you get notified when this video gets released as I deep dive into cloud maturity. But this is the assessment phase. We need to be able to understand 3 key things. What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? And what are our opportunities? We want to understand, based off of everything that we've discovered in the discovery phase, how we rank ourselves. And we should be judging ourselves based off of where we're trying to go. And it's okay if we find that we are less mature in some areas and more mature in others. Being able to understand where we are today is going to help us understand what we have to do to get to where we're going in the future. So once we've completed this discovery and this assessment phases, the next thing that we're going to move on to is the strategy development. Now, if this is an exercise in cloud or digital transformation, I'm going to call this strategy development. However, if this is a project where really what we're focusing on is a future state architecture or architecture design, this strategy development is really the design phase. This is where we're going to take the information that we've gathered and we're going to come up with whatever the new solution is that we're working on. And as part of this strategy development, we're going to come up with an execution plan for how we're going to get from where we are today to where we want to be in 12, 18, or even 24 months. And as I've spoken about in the past, any successful digital transformation or cloud transformation initiative needs to be given enough time to actually realize success. The markets tell us that oftentimes a successful digital or cloud transformation can take anywhere from 3 to 5 years. Now, this initial execution plan that we're going to come up with might not encompass that full breadth of the strategic initiative. However, it should at least focus on the near term, the next 12 to 18 months. And in here, these are where we're going to discuss things around organizational change, enablement, training, right? We're going to talk about adoption of new technology stacks. This might be an area where we talk about having to implement an enterprise architecture practice within our organizations, and really how we are going to modernize the applications that we're building and supporting from where they are today to where we want them to be. And I keep saying that over and over again, but really when we're talking about this process, and the reason that I've kind of developed it and structured it the way that I do is because we're trying to take the long view. We're not focused on one thing with our blinders on. We're really trying to look out and see all of the horizon laid out before us and figure out how we're going to go from where we are today, point A, to where we want to be, point B, and all of the intermediate steps in between. And this is really where we're going to be talking to our leaders. We're going to be communicating to our individual contributors so that they understand what we are trying to accomplish and why we are trying to go in the direction that we're moving towards, so that everyone can buy into the vision and be encouraged and enthusiastic about executing, even when things get difficult. And ultimately, they will get difficult. Now, once we've settled on our strategy and we've come up with our implementation plan, this is where we're going to execute it. So if it's an enterprise architecture project, this is where we've finished the design phase. We've gone through all of our peer reviews, and now we've taken it even perhaps before our architecture review board. Everyone is in agreement that this is what we want to do and this is how we're going to do it. And now we're going to take it out to the practitioners, the individuals, the people on our teams who are going to actually be implementing these changes for us. And so this implementation or execution phase is really where the rubber meets the road. This is how we're going to find out that what we planned strategically is actually going to be practically possible. And so a lot of time is going to have to be spent here to ensure that our teams have the appropriate tools and resources to be able to implement this strategic plan that we've come up with. Now, this implementation or execution phase in and of itself might have multiple phases that we go through. Again, we've talked about before wanting to make sure that as we embark on a large digital transformation initiative, that at first we hyper-focus on one key area, something that we've identified as perhaps the low-hanging fruit that we want to execute so that we can get some momentum behind it. And so this implementation phase might start out with merely implementing this project specific to that one specific thing we've identified. And then once we find success with that pilot or POC or test environment, whatever it might be, whatever you call it individually, once we find success with it there, then we're going to take the learnings and then we're going to start applying it to the broader ecosystem or the broader environment that we're executing against. And then the next phase or step as part of this process is the enablement phase. Now, the important thing to remember here is that enablement, again, is not a one and done. And more than likely, this enablement is going to have started earlier in the process. As part of your strategic development, you might have identified key areas that you need to enable your teams to help them have the new skill sets that they're going to need to be able to perhaps support a new cloud environment or to support a new developer toolkit that they're leveraging. And so the enablement will be taking place throughout all of this, but really we need to make sure and call out that we do have enablement, especially as we're starting to find success in the implementation and execution phase. The lessons that we learn there, some of them are more than likely going to be around, hey, we lack a certain skill set. We need to go out and get training, or we need to go out and hire and recruit individuals with these specific skills to bring them in to make it so that the next time we go through this iteration, things go more smoothly and we're more successful from the get-go. And so enablement, again, will be a constant process that you're going through. At this point, we should have seen some successes and we should have some wins under our belt with regard to our digital or cloud transformation initiatives and projects. And then one of the key things that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to make sure that we go back and review what went well. What did it go well? Again, this is almost like another mini assessment phase that you're going to go through to be able to understand, okay, here's where we thought we were weak. Here's where we thought we had strengths. Did those things prove true? Okay. Did the things that we set forth in our strategy development, were we able to successfully execute on them? And if we weren't, why weren't we? What did we learn from this process? What did we learn from the different phases so that we can take all of that information back, review it, and then figure out how to optimize the process going forward? Again, like we said, if we take this long view, okay, we know we're not going to get everything right the first go around. And so we need to make sure that we learn the critical things that we need to be learning and the lessons that we need to be learning from in each one of these phases so that we can continue to iterate along the way so that after 2 years, okay, 36 months, right, we're starting to say like, oh yes, we've been successful. We've implemented this framework. We've adopted these new technologies. We've come up with this strategy and we've iterated against that strategy. And now here we are 3 years later. And yes, we are getting, the reduced cost to our cloud. We are seeing cost savings. We're seeing a return on investment. We're seeing higher retention of our employees. We have less turnover of our team members. We see that we're able to attract and recruit top talent to come into our company because the things that we are working on, the way that we've modernized our infrastructure and our applications is exciting to the world. And so now we're able to, see a greater benefit to this for the organization and the company so that ultimately we can go back, report to our CEO, report to our board of directors that yes, indeed, we did see the return on investment for what we accomplished here as part of our digital or cloud transformation. No two environments or companies are the same. And so this framework is a way for you to get started to solve that blank page problem so that then you can tailor it to your specific needs. It's important to understand that this, again, should be iterative. We should be going through this process over and over again in both modifying the framework and the processes around the framework, as well as modifying how we're doing things and what we're doing and how we're executing. These two things together are what's going to make your digital transformation strategy successful in the long run. Now, if you're interested in learning more about how I can help you with your digital or cloud transformation, please reach out to me on Twitter at Chris Mutchler or find me on LinkedIn. Thank you for watching this video. Please make sure that you subscribe to the Virtual Elephant YouTube channel, you turn on notifications, and you leave me a comment below. Let me know what you thought of the video and how this framework might be beneficial to you or your organization as you embark on a digital or cloud transformation. I look forward to seeing you next time.